Okay, I'd like to call to order this regular council meeting of the Town of Saugeen Shores, and the first item is disclosures of pecuniary interest. I'll ask any member if they have a pecuniary interest with anything on the agenda they'd like to declare. Seeing none, of course, you can do so anytime if you need to. Next is additions or deletions. We don't have any of those. Do we? Sorry, we do. I'm sorry, we do. We do have some of those, or one. I have a motion moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Rich, that the council agenda be amended to add item 7.1, motion of support for Humboldt, Saskatchewan. Questions or comments? See any? All in favor? That's carried. All right, that moves us then on to item 4, adoption of minutes, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Minaj, seconded by Councillor Grace, that council adopt the minutes of the council meeting of March 26, 2018 as presented. Questions or comments? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
I unfortunately didn't put a reference point down here on my notes, but there's a mention of when Jay Posner gave us a report about a 5-year report on the official plan. I just wanted, there wasn't really a whole lot of discussion, so I was curious to know, it doesn't suggest that there's any future action that would give us a discussion opportunity. So is there any intention to put that as an agenda item on a planning agenda so that there can be that discussion?
Comment to that, the clerk.
So I think through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that you're referring to the Committee of Whole minutes. With respect to that, if I recall correctly, staff are going to bring it back on a topic-specific basis.
Are there any further questions or comments to the regular council minutes? Being none, all in favor? That's carried. That takes us on then to the Committee of the Whole minutes, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Dave Mayette, seconded by Councillor Grace, that Council note and file the minutes of the Committee of the Whole meeting of March 26, 2018 as presented. Questions or comments to that set of minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? That is carried. That takes us then on to report of the Committee of the Whole, and the first item, General Government Report, March 26, 2018. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette, that the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the General Government Report dated March 26, 2018, recommending that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores approve the multi-year accessibility plan. Questions or comments to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Next, then, is the Environmental Services and Transportation Report, March 26, 2018. I have a motion moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Mike Myatt, that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the Environmental Services and Transportation Report dated March 26, 2018, recommending that Council approve option number 4 as outlined in the Director of Public Works and Engineering Report dated March 26, 2018 for the reconstruction of Chantry View Drive in the spring of 2018. Questions or comments to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? Let me hold hands up. Opposed? That carries. Next, then, is item number 3, the Community Services, Parks and Recreation Report of March 26, 2018, and I have a motion moved by Councillor Mike Myatt, seconded by Councillor Matheson, that Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores adopts the Community Services, Parks and Recreation Report dated March 26, 2018, recommending that Council receives the 2018 Port Elgin Harbour Strategic Assessment as presented by Glenn Pinecombe of Touristics Consulting. Questions or comments to the motion? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. Opposed? Noted. Apologies for that. That moves us then on to item 6, report of municipal officers and committees, and one item, the staff report on the Goddard Street sidewalk. And there's a staff report connected to that the Director of, I'm going to call her the Director of Public Works because I'm going to forget the other title for the time being. Do you have any comments to that?
I'll just make it quick. This, through you, Deputy Mayor, this sidewalk is going to connect from Devonshire to the Independent on the west side of Highway 21.
Very happy to see the completion of this project and that connection. I have a motion moved by Councillor Rich, seconded by Councillor Matheson, that Council author... Oh, pardon me. Sorry, that's moved by the Vice Deputy Mayor and seconded by Councillor Matheson, that Council authorize The council authorized that Doug Welsh Construction Limited be awarded the contract for the Goddard Street sidewalk from Devonshire Road to Tomlinson Drive, tender number 2018-63205870 in the amount of $54,507.34 plus applicable HST, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the necessary tender documents. Questions or comments? Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I just want to express that I think we're also missing an opportunity here. A 1.5 meter wide concrete sidewalk in a location that I'm pretty confident will very quickly become a bike path because it is leading to a grocery store, and also for children who are old enough to be out on their own. You know, it leads from a residential area up to cross at Tomlinson, across to the Plex and to the BMX tracks, and it even connects with the rail trail. I think we should be putting in a multi-purpose kind of trail in this location to give bikes a safe route along with people walking. So I'm disappointed that I'm glad to see the sidewalk, the connection being completed, but I'm disappointed that we're not thinking a little more completely in terms of people moving around in a way that they're not in a car. Thank you.
Comments? Councillor Mike Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and I agree 100%. Vice Deputy Mayor, I still believe that each and every time we are looking at a new section of whether it's roadway re-asphalting or whether new sidewalk, that we should be paying some attention to our cycling community. And I also would have liked to see, and I know we approved a section south of there just last year, which I would have hoped could have been widened, but it wasn't. And the question I have through you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, to our Director of Public Works, well, your new title has escaped me, sorry. But when new sections like this sidewalk are being put in place, are we considering what our Vice Deputy Mayor is talking about, Amanda? Like, do we think about cyclists, pedestrians, cyclists combined, lying down the middle, much like out here at the the BMX track, skate park area? We've got that nice asphalt area for I call a sidewalk, but it's asphalted with a line down the middle. So it's for both. So when we're putting new sections down, do you staff discuss it? Like, do you think about trails and putting multiple uses on that section?
Through you, Deputy Mayor. We do, and for this instance, we're still not all in agreement that bicycles along 21 are the right path, and so where we need to put that bike route is coming through the Transportation Master Plan. So same as the piece to the south, there still is an opportunity to add an asphalt piece within the boulevard if that comes out in that part. The bike path on Devonshire is on the road. So, and it's going to connect over to Bruce or Highland on the road. So this piece here, I just see it as premature to put it together. It can be retrofitted in as asphalt if the bike paths are not in lane, or if it's not a different piece. In the future, Bruce Street is going to connect all the way to Concession 10. That might be the better place to put cyclists instead of on the highway.
Deputy Mayor, so the nice part about it is it's being talked about, and through the transportation study, hopefully, the whole biking situation will be nicely addressed in there. So, thank you,
Councillor Matheson.
I don't know what it is tonight, but Councillor Myatt must have ESP, because every time I've been going to say something, he's beat me to it. I agree with both Vice Deputy Mayor Huber and Councillor Myatt. The REACT Committee will be coming to Council very shortly, talking more about our bike-friendly initiative, and very shortly we will be declared a bike-friendly town. And I hope when we start to look at our Transportation Master Plan that we look at and include the bike-friendly initiative in there, and we start looking at all the roads that we can start putting the bike lanes on. Every connector road around the town, we need to have that on. The 6th, the 10th, Doll Side Road. We look at what the town did along Miramichi Bay and along the North Shore. That's fantastic. What was done north of Southampton is fantastic. This summer with the Grand Fondo on August 19th, you're going to see several hundred cyclists in town. You're going to see what the need actually is in this community for cycling and what can happen if we do bring those routes in. Imagine a route from Port Elgin to Kincardine that has the bike lane in it, the race that you can have between those two communities and the number of people. Thornbury brings in 1,000 people a weekend because of their cycling. We can do that as well. We do have the roads, but we do not have them maintained, paved shoulders, and the roads with it. And the last thing I'd just like to say is I'm glad to see this new sidewalk section from Tomlinson to Devonshire. If we had have kind of known this a couple months ago, our CAO wouldn't have got quite as mad as he did at us when we didn't know that, and we voted down a motion to have sidewalks not put in at that time because we didn't know the full extent of the plan. But this is a great process, and thank you for bringing this forward.
Any further questions or comments to this? I think important to be very clear that this is a 2018 capital budget project, one we discussed and put in the capital budget this way, and we're going to use every dollar of what we allocated to complete it. So I think it's what council asked for, and the administration has delivered it. And so I'll ask the question: all in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Now, that takes us on to notices, motions, and notices of motion, and we do have one of those now. It's a motion moved by Councillor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette. And it is, be it resolved that council send a message of support to the Mayor and Council of Humboldt, Saskatchewan, to show our support as they go through this trying time. Questions or comments? Councillor Matheson.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'd like to move that we through bylaw 16.4 dispensing with notice that says any motion may be introduced without notice and with the approval of the majority of council, that we expedite this so that we can send it off in due time so that we get it there this week instead of having to wait to do 2 weeks.
Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Rich. So to be clear, the councillor has moved that the motion be taken from the notice stage to the motion stage in one evening. So I'll ask the question: all in favor of doing that? That's carried. So this is now a motion. You've heard the motion. Is there any discussion to the motion? All in favor? That's carried. All right, that takes us on then to bylaws, and we have 3 bylaws. The first is Bylaw 26, 2018, to authorize agreements with the Chamber of Commerce, and I have a motion moved by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Matheson, that Bylaw 26, 2018, being a bylaw to authorize entering into lease agreements with the Saugeen Shores Chamber of Commerce, is hereby read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of April 2018. Questions or comments? Councillor Dave Mayette.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and once again through you. I see that this is a motion that we've all seen before. It was a couple of weeks ago that I requested that it be amended to be more detailed on how the property taxes are paid on that property. The former head of government for the town of Saugeen, Port Elgin, prior to amalgamation. And I see that certainly in Section 4, additional fees, it says the landlord and tenant agree that by mutual intention that the tenant shall be responsible to pay the property taxes on the premises. And I think that is the way that it has been handled before, but I would much rather have seen it done in such a way that the rent was adjusted proportionally to the amount of the taxes, and then the taxes be either paid for by the municipality or not, because it is a municipality-owned building. And it gets a bit. The reason for that is because it gets a little bit muddy when the chamber is divvying up the proportionality between the rent and proportionality of the applicable property taxes and the other additional fees to the different agencies that are residing within that building. And it's really kind of, whereas if it was one fee, a rent fee, just as probably 99.9% of other lease arrangements are in the world, you pay rent and the landlord is responsible for the property taxes. It would have been much cleaner. So although I don't want to see this held up any further, I would hope that in the future that we can keep these all consistent, whereby rent is rent and property taxes are the responsibility of the landlord. Thank you.
think there's likely to be a broader discussion in the coming number of months as there will be a renegotiation of the tourism agreement between the municipality and the Chamber of Commerce, and there's a bit of a financial calibration that goes into all this. And I suspect that as part of that broader discussion, some of these issues may be identified and sorted out. Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and I'm glad to hear that because I think that it's kind of silly that we charge them about $126 a month rent, but then we say we're paying the utilities. So basically, the utilities, I'm going to guess, water, sewer, and electricity, and I don't know if there's gas in that building or not, probably surpass the $126. So why don't we just come up with a brand new sort of idea and call it what it is, and be much more transparent about the support that we're giving and what we're expecting in return. Thank you.
It's just important to be clear that this agreement is negotiated and agreed to by both parties at this stage. I think we'd be wise to support it, and but these comments are noted, and I'm sure as discussions proceed with the Chamber on other items, they'll be considered. Any further discussion with regard to the bylaw? Seeing none, all in favor? That's carried. That takes us then on to bylaw number 29, 2018, being to authorize subdivision agreement with Matawash Phase 1. And I have a motion moved by Councillor Grace, seconded by Councillor Dave Mayette, that bylaw 29, 2018, being a bylaw to authorize the entering into of a subdivision agreement with Michael McMillan and Lou Murray for the Matawash Subdivision Phase 1, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of April 2018. Questions or comments to the bylaw? The Vice Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I have one comment and then two questions. This was a application through planning that the neighbors were very interested in what was potentially going to happen there, and the project did sort of shift and change a bit. So I noticed a couple of things in the all of the documents here that I wanted to ask a question about. One of them had to do with the condition of streets and how they had to be maintained. I'm just curious to know through you, do we actually take photographs of streets and use that as a benchmark so that later on we can say, oh, the street has been damaged? Because there's a number of reference points where it talks about the conditions of streets in the neighborhood and actually in the development. And I was just curious to know how we actually sort of have a benchmark in place, and then we try and realize the goal of what we're putting in the agreement. And then I have two others.
So through you, Deputy Mayor, every year we drive the streets and we use a program called LiDAR that takes a video of those streets. So as of February or March, whenever it's done, that year when we have that video now, we will know before what the street looked like.
Another thing that's in the agreement is about, it's item 47, and it's about tree preservation, and it basically suggests that any healthy tree that doesn't have to come down should not come down. And I just, and there was also encouragement in here about the town is to be encouraged to leave trees in street allowances, and I think it probably says where applicable. I'm curious to know how are we able to live up to the goal that's there, which is about keeping as many trees as possible, and also encouraging us, the town, to enable trees to be a little bit closer to the street, because certainly we seem to be losing a lot of those. So I just wanted to point that out. You don't necessarily have to answer the question, but there's reference in there about trees, and that was a very, very important aspect of the planning application. I also wanted to ask or comment that there's something in here about maintenance of installed works for a 2-year period. Would that be applicable to grass boulevards adjacent to sidewalks? Does that fit into this category? Because we have an incredible situation usually where things happen, and then 2 months after they're installed, there's damage. And if we have in place in agreements this idea of 2 years of maintenance on anything that a contractor does, we should be, I would think, going back and trying to get a little bit of improvement when there is obviously a need for it. So I'll just leave you with that thought, but very, very interested in the tree, so let's do what we can do if it's possible.
I'm not sure if the last one was a question or not, but how the maintenance period work is they have a security on everything, so we would make sure they maintain things before we assume it. So they're responsible for the safe maintenance of that. Boulevards are one where they would be disturbed over and over again, so we wouldn't be enforcing them to do anything specific on the boulevard unless it was a safety thing during that maintenance period, but we would expect it to be in an appropriate condition before we assumed it to be our infrastructure.
Any further comments? Being none, all in favor of the bylaw? That's carried. Then that takes us on to bylaw number 30, 2018, appointment of new staff positions. And I have a motion moved by the Vice Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Minaj, that bylaw 30, 2018, being a bylaw to appoint certain officers and employees for the town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of April 2018. Are there any questions or comments to the bylaw? Councillor Mike Myatt.
Just point of clarification when we say appointment of new staff positions, these are title changes. These are not, just so we could clarify for the public, I guess, these are name changes.
Yeah, through you, Deputy Mayor, that's correct. There are no additional staff as a result of this. It's just title changing.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? All in favor? Carried. Yeah, all right. Pardon me. The confirmatory bylaw. I have a motion moved by Councillor Minaj, seconded by Councillor Grace, that bylaw 31, 2018, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Town of Saugeen Shores, is hereby read a first, second, and third time and finally passed and sealed this 9th day of April 2018. Questions or comments? All in favor? That's carried. And the final one is, I have a motion moved by by Vice Deputy Mayor Huber, seconded by Councillor Minaj, that this regular council meeting of April 9, 2018 hereby adjourns at 10:17 p.m. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.